The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, by Mark Haddon. Introduction. Hello there. Come, sit down for a moment. I want to tell you a story. It's a story about a mystery, yes, but perhaps not the kind you're used to. It begins, as many strange tales do, just after midnight, with a dog lying dead on a perfectly ordinary lawn, a garden fork sticking out of its side. An unsettling image, isn't it? Enough to make anyone pause, to wonder, who would do such a thing, and why? But the person who finds this poor creature, Wellington the poodle, isn't just anyone. His name is Christopher John Francis Boone. He's 15 years old, knows all the countries of the world and their capitals, and every prime number up to 7057. He sees the world differently, with a clarity that most of us lose somewhere along the way. He notices the tiny details, the exact time, the number of holes in a pair of shoes, the precise patterns on a cow. He loves logic, order, timetables, the elegant certainty of mathematics. But the messy, unpredictable world of human emotions, jokes, metaphors, and unspoken meanings, that's where things get complicated. Mark Haddon's novel, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, isn't just about solving the mystery of who killed Wellington. Oh no, it's about something much deeper. It's about stepping inside a mind that works in a truly unique way, seeing the world through Christopher's eyes, a world that is often overwhelming, frightening, but also filled with moments of profound beauty and insight. It's a journey into understanding what it means to be different in a world that often demands conformity. This book became something of a phenomenon when it was published. It touched readers young and old, offering a window into a perspective rarely explored with such honesty and empathy. It asks us to question our own assumptions about communication, about love, about truth, and about the extraordinary courage it takes just to navigate the everyday world when your mind is wired differently. So, what promise can I make you today? By the end of our time together, you'll understand not only the twists and turns of Christopher's investigation but also the incredible journey he takes within himself. You'll glimpse the world through his logical, literal lens and perhaps gain a new appreciation for the diverse ways human beings experience reality. You'll see how a quest to find a dog's killer can lead to uncovering secrets much closer to home, forcing a young man to confront fear, navigate chaos, and ultimately discover his own remarkable strength. Ready? Let's begin. Book summary. Our story opens in the quiet stillness of night, precisely 7 minutes past midnight. 15-year-old Christopher Boone stands before his neighbor Mrs. Shears's lawn. Lying on the grass is Wellington, her large black poodle, not sleeping, but dead. A garden fork pierces the dog's body, pinning it to the earth. Christopher, who feels a deep connection with animals, especially dogs, because they are faithful, honest, and predictable, unlike people, approaches. He touches Wellington's muzzle. It's still warm. Overcome with sadness, he pulls the fork out and cradles the dog. The quiet is shattered by Mrs. Shears's screams. Seeing Christopher with her dead dog, she accuses him. Christopher hates being shouted at. It overwhelms him. He puts Wellington down, covers his ears, and curls into a ball on the cold, wet grass, seeking refuge in the sensation. Soon, the police arrive. Christopher likes the police. They have uniforms and clear roles. A policeman begins questioning him. How old are you? I am 15 years and 3 months and 2 days. What were you doing in the garden? I was holding the dog. Did you kill the dog? I did not kill the dog. The questions come too quickly, stacking up in Christopher's mind like loaves of bread in a faulty slicing machine. He feels overwhelmed by the input, the noise, the uncertainty. He starts groaning, a sound he makes when the world becomes too much. The policeman, trying to get him to stand, touches his arm. Christopher doesn't like being touched, especially unexpectedly. He reacts instinctively. He hits the policeman. This leads to his arrest for assaulting an officer. At the police station, Christopher feels calmer. The procedure is familiar from television. He meticulously lists the contents of his pockets: a Swiss Army knife, string, puzzle piece, rat food pellets for his pet rat Toby, £1.47, a paperclip, a key. He refuses to remove his watch. He needs to know the exact time. Locked in a cell, which he finds rather nice due to its perfect cuboid shape, he thinks about how he might escape, logically calculating fire starting angles with his glasses. He also wonders if Mrs. Shears falsely accused him, pondering the definition of slander. Christopher explains to us, his readers, why he finds people confusing. They talk without words, using facial expressions he struggles to interpret. Siobhan, a mentor figure at his school, tried to teach him faces for sad and happy, but others were too complex. People also use metaphors, laughing your socks off, apple of her eye, which Christopher considers lies because they aren't literally true. Imagining them literally just confuses him. Even his own name, Christopher, meaning carrying Christ, feels like a lie, an apocryphal story. He simply wants his name to mean him. His father, Ed Boone, arrives at the station, angry and worried. They share their special greeting, spreading their fingers like a fan and touching fingertips, a substitute for a hug, which Christopher dislikes. In an interview room, Christopher honestly admits he meant to hit the policeman, but only to make him stop touching him. He insists he didn't kill Wellington and always tells the truth. The police give him a caution, a formal warning. Christopher clarifies that hitting the policeman wasn't an accident, much to his father's frustration. Christopher explains his relationship with truth. He can't tell lies, not because he's inherently good, as his mother used to say, but because thinking about something that didn't happen opens up an infinite, terrifying flood of other things that also didn't happen. It makes him feel shaky and scared, like standing on a tall building. This is why he dislikes proper novels. They are lies, but enjoys murder mysteries. They are puzzles with logical solutions. He decides his own book, the one we are reading, will be a murder mystery novel about Wellington. Siobhan encouraged him to write something he'd want to read, and suggested starting with something dramatic, like the dog. He argues with Siobhan about whether a dog can be the victim in a murder mystery, insisting that he cares more about dogs than some people, because dogs are faithful and honest. On the drive home, his father tells him to stay out of other people's business. But Christopher, inspired by the structure of murder mysteries, declares he will find out who killed Wellington. His father gets angry, banging the steering wheel and shouting, "It's a bloody dog, Christopher, a bloody dog." Christopher retreats, playing Minesweeper on his computer to calm down. Later, he finds his father crying, watching snooker. His father admits he's sad about Wellington. Christopher reflects on his mother. He believes she died 2 years ago from a heart problem while in the hospital. He remembers coming home from school to an empty house, his father returning late and distressed. His father told him his mother was in the hospital and needed rest. Christopher wanted to visit but was told no. He made her a get well card with linocut cars, colored red because red cars signify a good day for him. 2 weeks later, his father told him she'd had an unexpected heart attack and died. Christopher, ever logical, questioned the type of heart attack, given her age and health, suggesting an aneurysm or an embolism. He remembers Mrs. Shears coming over afterward, comforting his father and cooking for them. Christopher thinks about death and heaven. He doesn't believe in heaven. It's illogical. He debated this with the Reverend Peters, arguing that heaven couldn't exist outside the universe, unless perhaps through a black hole, which presents logistical problems for sending dead people there. He believes people invent heaven because they fear death. For Christopher, death is simply the cessation of brain function and the body's decomposition, molecules returning to the earth. His mother was cremated. He sometimes imagines her molecules in the clouds or rain. The next day is a good day, 4 red cars in a row on the way to school, perfect for projects. Christopher decides to continue his investigation despite his father's warning. He doesn't always do what he's told because instructions are often confusing and illogical. Rules like "be quiet" lack duration, and signs like "keep off the grass" are ambiguous. Besides, people break rules constantly, even his father. Siobhan gives clear, specific instructions, which he appreciates. He decides he must investigate Wellington's murder. He goes to Mrs. Shears's house. She doesn't want to see him. He tells her he didn't kill Wellington and wants to find the killer. She closes the door. Christopher, Noticing she's no longer watching from the window, climbs over her garden wall to investigate her shed. Through the window, he sees a clean garden fork matching the murder weapon. This means the fork likely belongs to Mrs. Shears. Could she have killed her own dog? Unlikely, given her reaction. The shed is locked. Mrs. Shears discovers him again and threatens to call the police. Christopher goes home, feeling happy. He is a detective finding clues. He explains his system of good days and black days based on car colors. 4 red cars. Good day. 3 red. Quite good day. 5 red. Super good day. 4 yellow. Black day, a day of silence. Reading. Not eating. Taking no risks. He defends this to Mr. Jevons, the school psychologist, comparing it to people feeling happy about sunshine or his father's routines, like putting trousers on before socks. He clarifies that he isn't clever, just observant. Cleverness is using evidence to deduce something new, like the universe expanding or solving a murder. He feels safe when things are in order. He wants to be an astronaut, despite the obstacles, and plans to study maths and physics at university. On Saturday, Christopher decides to interview the neighbors. Talking to strangers is difficult and frightening. Not because of stranger danger he feels capable of defending himself, but because unfamiliar people are hard to understand. It takes him a long time to get used to new people. But detective work requires bravery. He draws a map of the street. He knocks on number 40. Mr. Thompson's brother answers, wearing a crude t-shirt. He knows nothing about Wellington and was out of town anyway. Number 42 doesn't answer. At number 44, the lady knows Christopher and has heard about Wellington, but saw nothing suspicious. When Christopher asks if anyone might want to make Mrs. Shears sad, the lady suggests he talk to his father. Christopher explains the investigation is secret. She advises him to be careful. Mr. Wise at number 43 smells unpleasant and makes a joke about policemen getting younger, so Christopher leaves. He avoids number 38, where people take drugs. He finds Mrs. Alexander, from number 39, gardening. She's old but wears jeans and trainers. She has heard about Wellington but knows nothing. She recognizes Christopher and tries to make small talk, or chatting, which Christopher finds difficult because it isn't direct questions and answers. She mentions her grandson is about his age. Christopher clarifies his exact age. She asks if he has a dog. He says he has a rat named Toby. He explains that rats are clean animals. Mrs. Alexander invites him in for tea, but he declines as he doesn't go into strangers' houses. She offers to bring refreshments out. He specifies orange squash and inquires about Battenberg cake, liking the sound of the pink squares but not the yellow or the marzipan. She offers biscuits instead. While she's inside, Christopher gets nervous, worrying she might be calling the police because of his caution. He leaves. As he walks away, he has a stroke of inspiration, a chain of reasoning. Why kill a dog? Hate? Madness? Or to upset the owner? Hate or madness likely implies a stranger. But most murders are committed by someone known to the victim. Who disliked Mrs. Shears? Mr. Shears. Mr. Shears left Mrs. Shears 2 years ago. He might have come back to kill her dog out of spite. Mr. Shears becomes Christopher's prime suspect. He recalls Mrs. Shears staying over after his mother died, bringing order to their kitchen but using confusing idioms. Christopher reflects on his own behavioral problems, listing them: not talking, not eating, disliking touch, screaming, smashing things, groaning, hating yellow and brown, not understanding anger, not smiling, saying rude things, doing stupid things, hitting people, hating France, driving his mother's car once, getting upset if furniture is moved. These caused arguments between his parents, leading him to think they might divorce. When Christopher gets home, his father confronts him. Mrs. Shears called. Christopher reveals his prime suspect is Mr. Shears. Father explodes with anger, banging the table and shouting, "I will not have that man's name mentioned in my house. That man is evil." He makes Christopher promise, absolutely promise, to stop the investigation. Christopher tells Siobhan the book must end because he can't investigate anymore. She reassures him it's good as it is, like some short novels. Christopher worries the murderer is still at large. He mentions his father calling Mr. Shears evil. Siobhan speculates father dislikes Mr. Shears perhaps because he hurt Mrs. Shears, their friend. But Christopher corrects her. Father said Mrs. Shears isn't their friend anymore. Siobhan admits she doesn't know the answers. Christopher endures 2 consecutive black days. Then comes a super good day, 5 red cars. Something special must happen. At the shop, he encounters Mrs. Alexander again. She asks why he left the other day. He admits fearing she'd call the police due to his caution. Outside, he pets her dachshund, Ivor. Mrs. Alexander assures him chatting isn't trouble. Remembering it's a super good day, Christopher decides talking to her might be the special thing. He shares his interests: computers, maths, Toby, outer space, being alone. He mentions his upcoming A-level maths exam. Reasoning that asking about Mr. Shears doesn't break his specific promises to his father, and needing to take risks as a detective on a super good day, he asks, "Do you know Mr. Shears?" Mrs. Alexander knew him slightly. She thinks he worked at a bank. Christopher asks why his father called Mr. Shears evil. Mrs. Alexander becomes hesitant, suggesting maybe his father is right and he shouldn't ask questions. She implies Christopher knows why his father dislikes Mr. Shears. Christopher, misunderstanding, asks if Mr. Shears killed his mother, or hurt her, causing her hospitalization. Mrs. Alexander is shocked to hear about the hospitalization and death. Pressed again, Mrs. Alexander agrees to talk, but makes Christopher promise not to tell his father. They walk into the park, which scares Christopher. She reveals the secret: your mother, before she died, was very good friends with Mr. Shears. Very, very good friends. Christopher asks, "Do you mean that they were doing sex?" "Yes, Christopher, that is what I mean. That," she explains, "is why his father thinks Mr. Shears is evil and why Mr. Shears likely left Mrs. Shears." Feeling scared being in the park with a relative stranger, Christopher goes home. Christopher contemplates Mr. Jevons' idea that maths is safe because it has straightforward answers, unlike life. He disagrees, using the Monty Hall problem as an example where intuition fails but logic reveals the correct, counterintuitive answer. Switching doors gives a 2/3 chance of winning the car. This shows numbers can be complex and intuition misleading. He tells Siobhan about the conversation with Mrs. Alexander, having written it in his book. She asks if finding out about the affair made him sad. Christopher says no. His mother is dead and Mr. Shears is gone, so feeling sad would be illogical, like feeling sad about something not real. Siobhan gently suggests sadness can be hidden or unconscious, offering to talk if he needs to. Christopher describes his memory as being like a film or DVD, allowing him to rewind and replay scenes with full sensory detail. He recalls a specific holiday scene with his mother on a beach in Polperro. He contrasts this with how others imagine things that aren't real, like his mother's fantasy of living in France, or Siobhan's calming visualization of Cape Cod, or people asking what the dead would think. He uses his memory search function to recognize people or decide how to act in situations. One afternoon, Christopher leaves his book on the kitchen table. Father finds it, quietly at first, then exploding with rage. He confronts Christopher about talking to Mrs. Alexander. Christopher tries to argue he didn't break the exact promises. Father grabs him hard. Christopher, startled and disliking the touch, hits him repeatedly. He blacks out momentarily. When he comes to, he's on the floor, head hurting, blood on his hand. Father is standing over him, breathing heavily, the book bent and damaged. Father goes outside, throws the book in the dustbin, comes back, gets a beer. The next day, Father apologizes for hitting him, though Christopher remembers being grabbed and takes him to Twycross Zoo to make amends. At the zoo cafe, Father expresses his love and explains his anger stems from worry. They share their finger touch gesture. Christopher enjoys the zoo, especially the orangutan Maliku who made its own hammock. Christopher decides to find his book. He checks the dustbin and garden waste bin. It's not there. He reasons Father must have hidden it inside. While Father is out, he searches the house meticulously, careful not to leave clues. He eventually looks in Father's bedroom cupboard. Under a toolbox, inside an old shirt box, he finds the book. Beneath it are envelopes. addressed to him in his mother's handwriting, identifiable by the little circles over the eyes. Hearing father return, he quickly takes one envelope, hides it under his mattress, and replaces everything. Later, alone in his room, he opens the envelope. The letter is from his mother, writing from a London address. She mentions her new job at a steel factory, moving into a new flat with Roger Mr. Shears, and apologizes for Christopher being angry with her. He checks the postmark, October 16, 1997, 18 months after she supposedly died. Confused and excited by this new mystery, he decides to wait until father is out again to read the other letters. 6 days later, father is called out on an emergency. Christopher retrieves the shirt box. There are 43 letters. He reads several. One details moving into the new flat and finding an old photo of Christopher with his train set, recalling happy memories. Another, much longer letter, explains why she left. She admits she wasn't a very good mother, finding Christopher's behavioral problems stressful. His father was more patient. She recounts a difficult shopping incident where Christopher had a meltdown, and how she cried afterward, leading to arguments with father. She felt lonely and started spending time alone with Roger Mr. Shears, finding she could talk to him. They fell in love. After a particularly bad argument with Christopher involving thrown food and her broken toes, followed by a fight with father, she saw how much calmer Christopher was with just his father and felt invisible, realizing they might be better off without her. When Roger got a job transfer to London, she decided to go with him, believing it was best for everyone. She meant to explain and say goodbye, but father furiously forbade her from returning or contacting Christopher. He reads other letters about her job search, dentist visits, and asking Christopher to write back. The truth hits Christopher. Mother is alive. Father lied. He feels sick, dizzy. The room seems to swing. He curls up on the bed. Time passes. He blacks out and vomits. He hears father calling his name, seeing the word Christopher visually in his mother's handwriting. Father finds him amidst the letters and the sick. He's distraught, apologizing, trying to explain he lied for Christopher's good, that it got out of control. He gently helps Christopher clean up and runs him a bath. Christopher doesn't fight or scream. He feels detached, numb. Later, sitting on the bed, father confesses again, trying to explain his actions. He admits he thought he and Mrs. Shears might build a life together after Christopher's mother left. They had argued. She'd thrown him out, seeming to care more for Wellington than for him or Christopher. In a moment of rage, the red mist, seeing the dog immediately after being rejected, he killed Wellington with a garden fork. Christopher understands it's not a joke. He is terrified. Father killed Wellington. He lied about mother being dead. He can't be trusted. Father holds out his hand for their usual touch, but Christopher screams and pushes him away. Father retreats, promising to talk in the morning, saying trust me. Christopher knows he must leave. He waits until father falls asleep on the sofa. Taking his Swiss Army knife, coats, Toby in his cage initially, and his special food box, he quietly exits through the back door and hides behind the garden shed. He watches the constellation Orion, dismissing the mythological shapes and focusing on the stars as distant nuclear explosions. He dozes fitfully. At dawn, he hears father searching the garden, hiding himself completely until father drives away in his van. He needs somewhere safe to live. He considers Mrs. Shears, but she isn't home. He mentally runs through options. Siobhan not family, Uncle Terry too far, dislikes him, Mrs. Alexander stranger. The only remaining option, go to London and live with mother, using the address from the letters. The thought is terrifying. He's never traveled alone, but staying or going home feels even more dangerous. He visualizes his choices, crossing out the impossible ones, leaving only London. He decides to take the train. He needs money and someone to care for Toby. He tries asking Mrs. Alexander to look after Toby, explaining his situation. She's hesitant, suggests calling his father. Christopher flees back to his house. Finding the back door locked, he smashes the window with a brick, lets himself in, packs a bag with essentials and food, takes Toby out of his cage and puts him in his pocket, and crucially, takes father's cash point card from his wallet, remembering the PIN. 3558. He walks toward school, planning to ask Siobhan for directions to the station. His fear fluctuates. Fear of the new place versus fear of father. But father's van is parked outside the school. Christopher vomits, but forces himself to stay calm using deep breaths and maths. He decides to ask a stranger, a lady, deemed safer, for directions, holding his knife ready. She points him toward the station building. He follows a bus, gets lost in a crowded shopping street, feels overwhelmed, but uses a systematic spiral search pattern to locate the station. The train station is chaotic, noisy, overwhelming. Christopher explains how he sees everything, unlike most people who just glance. In new places, this constant stream of data is exhausting, like a computer crashing. He finds a quiet corner, sits down, closes his eyes, and does a complex maths problem Conway's soldiers in his head to regain clarity. A policeman finds him. Christopher explains he's going to London to live with his mother. The policeman is skeptical but helps him use father's CashPoint card to withdraw money £50. Christopher buys a single ticket to London. Following signs and using his red line mental map technique, he navigates the underpass and finds platform 1. Just as the train is about to leave, he boards. The first policeman reappears, having caught up. He intends to take Christopher back, but the train starts moving. The policeman radios for someone to meet him at the next stop, Didcot Parkway. Christopher feels overwhelmed by the speed, the changing scenery, the sheer number of people in the world. He needs the toilet but is afraid to ask. He wets himself slightly. The policeman tells him to use the train toilet. The toilet is disgusting, but he uses it. Afterward, seeing the luggage shelves, he climbs onto one and hides behind a suitcase, feeling safer in the enclosed space. The policeman searches for him, looks in the toilet, but doesn't find him. The train stops at Didcot, but Christopher stays hidden. People come and go, taking luggage. One man notices him and calls him a train elf. Eventually, the train becomes quiet. Christopher emerges. His bag is gone. He sees another policeman searching the carriage and quickly gets off the train. He's in a vast, noisy station hall. Overwhelmed, he kneels down. He forces himself up, follows the direction the train was heading, finds an information desk, and confirms he is in London Paddington Station. He asks for directions to his mother's address. The lady tells him to take the underground the tube to Willesden Junction or Willesden Green. He navigates the underground entrance, observing others to learn how to buy a ticket from a machine and use the electronic gates. He finds the signs for the Bakerloo line, goes down the escalator holding on tight, and follows signs for northbound trains. He reaches a small, crowded, underground platform. The noise and proximity of people are unbearable. When the first train arrives with a deafening roar and wind, he panics, thinking the station is collapsing or on fire. He closes his eyes, moaning. The train leaves. The cycle repeats. Crowding, roaring train, emptying platform. It feels like having the flu. A helpless waiting and hurting. He focuses on an advert for Malaysia featuring orangutans to distract himself. He stays there for hours, eyes closed, turning the rhythm of the trains into a calming mantra. Eventually, the station becomes quieter. He looks at his watch. It's past 8 p.m. He realizes Toby is missing from his pocket. Looking around frantically, he spots Toby down on the tracks. He climbs down. People shout warnings. He tries to coax Toby, who keeps running. Another train approaches with a roar. Toby runs back. Christopher grabs his tail. A man pulls Christopher back onto the platform just as the train rushes past. Christopher puts the frightened, biting Toby back in his pocket. The man who saved him misses his train and is understandably shaken and angry. Other bystanders try to help, but Christopher pushes them away. After several more trains, Christopher forces himself onto one. He focuses on signs and patterns in the carriage to cope with the people and the tunnel noise. He carefully times the journey between stations, noting the regularity. At Willesden Junction, he gets off. The platform is almost deserted. He buys a London A to Z Street atlas from a kiosk. Sitting on the floor, he finds Chapter Road on the map and plans his route. He walks through the night streets, arriving at 451 C Chapter Road after 27 minutes. No one answers the bell for flat C. He waits, hiding behind dustbins in the small front garden. It starts to rain. He gets cold. Just after 11:30 p.m., he hears his mother's voice, arguing with Mr. Shears as they approach. He reveals himself. Mother is shocked, overwhelmed, embraces him. He pushes her away. He explains father killed Wellington and he's come to live with her. They go inside the small flat. Mother runs him a bath. While bathing, she learns that father told Christopher she was dead and hid her letters. She breaks down, wailing. A policeman arrives, summoned by father. Christopher states he wants to stay with his mother. Mother confirms this, revealing father's deception. The policeman accepts this and leaves. Christopher sleeps on an air mattress in the spare room. In the middle of the night, father arrives, shouting and arguing violently with mother and Mr. Shears. Father forces his way into Christopher's room, apologizing tearfully, pleading for trust. Christopher remains silent and frightened, holding his knife. The police are called again and escort father away. Christopher has his favorite dream. A virus kills everyone who understands facial expressions and nuance, leaving only special people like him, free to explore the quiet world, take what they need, and live by logic and order. Life in the small flat is tense. Mr. Shears clearly doesn't want Christopher there. Mother takes compassionate leave. A shopping trip for clothes ends disastrously when Christopher gets overwhelmed. He realizes he must return to Swindon for his maths A-level, scheduled for the following week. Mother is stressed, dealing with father's threats of legal action and arguments with Mr. Shears. She tells Christopher she already canceled the exam, thinking he'd take it next year. Christopher is devastated. He stops eating, withdraws, and uses white noise from a radio to block out the arguments and his own distress. Mr. Shears drunkenly confronts him one night. The next morning, mother packs suitcases, takes Mr. Shears's car borrowing it, and drives Christopher back to Swindon. She explains they had to leave London before someone got hurt. They arrive back at the house. Father isn't there. Christopher barricades himself in his room. Father returns. More shouting ensues. Mother tells Christopher father has gone to stay with Rodri for a while. Christopher again brings up the A-level. Mother reiterates that she canceled it. The pain returns. Christopher rocks and groans. The next day, mother takes him to school. Siobhan learns about the A-level situation. After lunch, Siobhan tells Christopher the papers are still there. Mrs. Gascoigne is contacting the exam board, and the Reverend Peters might still invigilate. Siobhan asks if he still wants to do it, stressing he doesn't have to. Christopher says yes. Changing his timetable makes him feel sick. He takes paper 1, supervised by the Reverend Peters. He initially panics, unable to think or breathe, but calms himself with deep breaths and calculating cubes. He finishes, rushed. Father visits that night but leaves after punching the fence when Christopher doesn't respond. Christopher takes paper 2 the next day. That evening, Mr. Shears drives by, dumps a box of mother's belongings on the lawn, and leaves for good. Christopher takes paper 3 the day after, feeling better, even enjoying one particularly elegant geometry proof. His chest hurts less, but he worries about the result and whether the exam board will accept his papers. Father visits again, wanting to know how the exam went. Christopher admits he was tired and unsure. Father expresses pride. Mother has to move out as father owns the house, but she lacks money for rent. They move into a small room in a shared house, which Christopher dislikes. He worries constantly about his results. Siobhan advises him to focus on the present and good things that have happened. He has to spend afternoons at father's house after school, locking himself in his room. Toby dies of old age. One afternoon, father proposes a project, rebuilding trust, starting with short, timed interactions. He gives Christopher a present, a 2-month-old golden retriever puppy. Christopher decides to call him Sandy. He can keep the dog at father's house and visit. Christopher gets his A-level result, an A grade. He feels immensely happy. Sandy sleeps on his bed when he stays at father's house, making him feel safer. He helps father plant a vegetable patch. He buys a further maths textbook and plans to take that A-level, then physics. He will go to university, live independently with Sandy, and become a scientist. He concludes his book, reflecting on his journey. I went to London on my own, and because I solved the mystery of who killed Wellington, and I found my mother and I was brave and I wrote a book and that means I can do anything. Commentary. What an extraordinary journey Christopher takes us on. Starting with the unsettling death of a neighbor's dog, he embarks on an investigation that unravels not just a local mystery, but the hidden complexities and pains within his own family. Mark Haddon gives us this incredible gift, a glimpse into a mind that perceives the world with startling logic and precision, yet grapples profoundly with the illogical landscape of human emotion and connection. Christopher's world is one of facts, patterns, and rules. Prime numbers are like life, logical, yet their underlying rules remain elusive. Timetables provide safety in the bewildering flow of time. His inability to lie isn't a moral choice, but a cognitive necessity. The infinity of untruths is simply too overwhelming. Through his eyes, we see the absurdity of metaphors, the confusion caused by unspoken social cues, and the sheer sensory overload that everyday life can become for someone wired differently. Yet, this story is far from being just a clinical study. It's a deeply human story about courage. Think about it. For Christopher, talking to a stranger, navigating a crowded street, or taking a train to an unknown city is monumental. His journey to London is not just a physical trek, but an epic confrontation with his deepest fears. He uses his logical tools, maps, plans, maths problems, as anchors in a sea of overwhelming chaos. His bravery isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, determined, and utterly remarkable. The book also explores the messy realities of family. We see the immense strain on Christopher's parents, his mother's desperate loneliness and feeling of inadequacy, his father's fierce love mixed with frustration, grief, and a terrible mistake born of anger and hurt. The discovery of his mother's letters, and his father's lies, shatters Christopher's ordered world. Yet, even amidst this turmoil, there are attempts at reconciliation, however imperfect. The shared finger-touch gesture, the project of rebuilding trust, the gift of a puppy. It reminds us that love and truth in families are often tangled and difficult. What can we take away from Christopher's story today? Perhaps, first, a deeper empathy. To try and understand perspectives vastly different from our own. To recognize the hidden battles others might be fighting just to navigate a world that feels alien to them. Second, the power of truth, even when it's difficult. Father's lie, intended perhaps to protect, ultimately causes far greater pain. Christopher's unwavering commitment to factual truth, while sometimes socially awkward, becomes his compass. And finally, Christopher's own conclusion, finding courage within ourselves. He faced his fears, solved mysteries both external and internal, and proved to himself that he could achieve his goals. Taking that maths A level, despite everything, wasn't just about the grade, it was a testament to his resilience. So, how might you apply this? Practice seeing, try, just for a few minutes today, to notice the details Christopher might see. Look closely at patterns, numbers, specific objects around you. What do you usually miss? Value clarity. When you communicate, strive for clarity. Think about how confusing ambiguity or idioms can be. Say what you mean. Acknowledge courage. Recognize the small acts of bravery in yourself and others. Facing a fear, trying something new, navigating a difficult situation. Christopher shows us that courage comes in many forms. That was the book summary of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. We've journeyed through Christopher's unique world today, uncovering secrets and witnessing incredible bravery. But honestly, hearing about it is one thing. Experiencing Christopher's voice firsthand is another entirely. This summary aims to give you a feel for whether this remarkable book belongs on your reading list. If Christopher's perspective intrigued you, if his quest resonated, then I wholeheartedly encourage you to pick up the book itself. There's a richness in his narration, a blend of logic and vulnerability, that truly comes alive on the page. It's more than just a story, it's an invitation to see the world, and perhaps yourself, just a little bit differently. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if this exploration of Christopher's world has sparked something in you, Do give this summary a like and subscribe to Billionaire's Bookshelf. We delve into powerful books like this regularly, aiming to unlock the wisdom within them. Join us for the next one, and let's continue discovering life-changing ideas together.